Imagine this: you're in the happiest time of your life, fresh off your wedding day, thinking your relationship is perfect. But suddenly, one small discovery shatters your entire world and turns it upside down. The woman you've just married, the person you trusted most, is hiding a devastating truth about her past. What happens when a newlywed husband uncovers the truth about his wife's identity, a secret that causes him to spiral into a dark, uncontrollable rage? This is the tragic story of betrayal, confusion, and violence that ended in a murder no one could have predicted. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. David and Sarah seemed like a couple destined to be together. David, in his early 30s, was a stable, kind-hearted man living in a small, peaceful town where everyone knew everyone else. He had always been the quiet type, preferring a simple life with a steady job and loyal friends. He met Sarah at a local charity event, where her charm and warmth instantly caught his eye. Sarah was beautiful, intelligent, and engaging. She made everyone feel like they were the most important person in the room. It didn't take long for David to fall head over heels for her. To those who knew them, David and Sarah seemed like a perfect match. Their chemistry was undeniable, and soon enough they were inseparable. Their courtship moved quickly, and within a few months, David proposed to Sarah. The wedding was a fairy tale affair, attended by their closest friends and family. The couple was radiant, full of hope for a long, happy life together. To David, it was the start of a new chapter with the woman he had always dreamed of. But Sarah had a secret. It wasn't one she planned to reveal right away, and it wasn't because she didn't trust David. It was because she feared he would leave her once he found out. Sarah was transgender. She had transitioned from male to female years before meeting David. It had been a long and challenging journey, one that she had worked hard to put behind her. In her mind, the past was the past, and there was no need for David to know. She had become the woman she always was inside, and she was happy with who she had become. But would David see it the same way? Everything seemed perfect until a few months into their marriage. Sarah began to notice a shift in David. At first, it was subtle. He started spending more time at work, coming home late, and becoming distant. Sarah felt the change, but she didn't know what was causing it. They had always communicated openly, but now David seemed withdrawn. One evening after dinner, David's behavior took an even stranger turn. He was anxious, on edge, and when Sarah asked him what was bothering him, he snapped back, "Nothing. Everything's fine," but it wasn't fine. Sarah knew him too well. Something was off, but she couldn't put her finger on it. A few days later, David started acting even more strangely. He was short with her, avoiding eye contact and not engaging in conversation like he usually did. Finally, Sarah decided to confront him. "David, something's wrong. Talk to me," she said, her voice filled with concern. David hesitated before answering, his voice shaky. "I need to ask you something," he said, his gaze distant. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She could feel the tension in the air. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. David pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his jacket pocket. It was a medical record, one that he had found while going through their things. The record had her old name on it, the name she had used before transitioning. "I found this," David said, his voice growing louder. "Why didn't you tell me, Sarah? Why didn't you tell me that you used to be a man?" The words hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. She had known this day might come, but she had hoped it never would. She never wanted to hurt David, but now the truth was out. "David, I didn't think it mattered. I'm the same person I've always been. This was part of my past, and I thought we could move forward without it affecting us." David looked at her in disbelief. His face was contorted with confusion, anger, and hurt. "How could you keep this from me? I married you, and you lied to me about who you are. How am I supposed to trust you now?" Sarah was desperate. "David, I didn't lie to you. I'm still the woman you married. My past doesn't define me." But David wasn't hearing it. The anger in his eyes deepened, and he turned away from her, pacing around the room. "You've been lying to me this whole time. I don't know who you really are anymore." The days that followed were filled with tension. David was no longer the man she had married. He became withdrawn, irritable, and hostile. He couldn't process the information that Sarah had kept hidden from him. Every interaction was filled with anger and frustration. Sarah, heartbroken and terrified, tried everything to get through to him. She reassured him that she was still the same person, but David couldn't shake his feelings of betrayal. David's mind began to spiral. The woman he loved, the woman he thought he knew, had been hiding a secret from him. He couldn't wrap his mind around it. He began to question everything: their marriage, their future, their life together. Every time he looked at Sarah, he saw her differently. He saw her as someone who had deceived him. In his mind, the trust that had once been the foundation of their relationship was shattered beyond repair. As the days passed, David's frustration turned into something darker. He began to lash out at Sarah, accusing her of lying and manipulating him. The tension reached a boiling point one evening when they had yet another heated argument. Sarah, terrified of losing the love of her life, pleaded with him to understand. "David, please. I'm still the same person. I love you. I never wanted to hurt you." But David wasn't listening. The hurt and confusion had overwhelmed him. He wanted answers, and in his mind there was only one way to get them. His anger blinded him to everything else. The tragic end. That night, after an argument that seemed to stretch on forever, David snapped. In a violent outburst, his anger overtook him, and he attacked Sarah. What had started as a heated exchange turned into a brutal confrontation. The love and trust they had built over months, perhaps even years, evaporated in an instant. Sarah tried to fight back, but she was no match for David's rage. The violence escalated quickly, and in the heat of the moment, Sarah's life was tragically taken. In that brutal moment, the dream of a happy marriage ended, and a life was lost. The police were called to the scene after neighbors heard the commotion and witnessed David leaving the house in a state of panic. When they arrived, they found Sarah's lifeless body, the scene one of pure horror. David was arrested immediately and charged with murder. The murder of Sarah shocked the entire community. Friends and family couldn't comprehend how David, a man who had seemed so loving, could commit such a violent crime. The revelation about Sarah's past had been the catalyst for a tragedy that no one could have foreseen. The media covered the case extensively, but the story wasn't just about a man who killed his wife. It was about the emotional turmoil and confusion that had driven him to this point. David's trial was filled with raw emotion. His defense attorneys argued that he had acted in a state of temporary insanity, overwhelmed by the shock of discovering Sarah's true identity. The prosecution, however, presented a different narrative: that David had allowed his emotions to spiral out of control, and his actions were the result of unchecked rage. In the end, David was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. The tragedy of Sarah's death lingered in the town long after the trial ended. People were left to ask themselves how something so tragic could happen, how a secret, meant to protect someone, ended in a violent death. This case serves as a powerful reminder of the complexities of love, trust, and identity. No one can predict how a relationship will change once the truth is revealed. The consequences can be catastrophic when secrets are kept, even with the best of intentions. In the end, the loss of a life, a person who was loved by so many, leaves behind nothing but pain and unanswered questions. What do you think about this tragic story? Was there any way for this to have ended differently? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next video. Thank you for watching.